Hello, Harvest Youth Group. Welcome. I'm Christian Gamalian. I'm talking with co-host and your youth pastor, Matt Eldridge, and this is Quarantine Convos, a Harvest Youth Group podcast. Today is May 14th. Can you believe it has been over 2 months since the last day of school and our last youth group? Oh my gosh.
May the 14th be with you.
Oh yeah, we're just gonna find whatever we can to celebrate. We had a good youth group last night. We had a youth group. It was kind of our first full-on youth group on Zoom, so that's pretty cool. But we are ready to have some more quarantine convos with students. So before we get into that, let's hit our love to see it and hate to see it. Matt, last week, what did you love to see and hate to see?
Well, I'll do my love to see it first. So the weather was amazing this last weekend. It was perfect. And Kat and I and our good friend Christian got to go kayaking. We went kayaking down the Washougal River, and it was beautiful, perfect weather, a fun socially distanced activity, and it was just so peaceful, and I felt so at rest the rest of the weekend after just getting out. So you love to see it.
Love to see it.
My hate to see it comes upon today. So we're kind of fostering a dog right now, a puppy for my parents named Murphy. And so recently they've been starting to have him at their house more and more and for longer periods of time. So they've had him, I think, Thursday through today. And, so a whole week. And it was so peaceful without him. And then he came back today, and within the first 5 minutes of him being back, he ate a puzzle that we were working on that belonged to Kat's grandma. And then he also ate a coaster, and then he started eating the dog bed. And it's like he had never done all that in that short of span before. So you hate to see it, and I feel my blood pressure rising.
You hate to see it. Welcome back, Murph Man.
Murph Man with the return.
Goodness. So let's get into this conversation. Matt,
yes.
Who is joining us today?
Our good friend Charlie is joining us, 7th grader in our middle school group. So if you don't smile just listening to Charlie, something's wrong with you, because she's one of the happiest people I know. So let's bring Charlie in.
Welcome back, and welcome to our guest, Charlie. How you doing?
Hey, Charlie. So good to have you with us. All right, so we have got an icebreaker question for you, Charlie, to break the ice, break the tension before we start getting into the deeper, harder questions. So your question is this. I'm going to call it the Ursula Ariel factor. So you get to steal any person's singing voice that you want, and it becomes your singing voice. Whose voice are you stealing and leaving them mute?
Ariana Grande's.
Ariana Grande. I saw her on the Jimmy Fallon impersonation thing, the Wheel of Impressions or whatever.
Oh, wow.
She can do such good impressions of other people singing. It's crazy.
Let's get to some real questions, not just icebreakers. How have you spent your time during quarantine?
Well, I've been doing a lot of schoolwork, but I've also been praying a lot just because of everything that's going on.
That's so awesome. What do you find yourself praying for on a regular basis?
Just that it starts to slow down, all of these cases and all of these deaths.
Yeah, it's big stuff. It's stuff that who else could we go to with it other than God, right? It's not stuff we can just figure out or fix on our own. So that's awesome that you just keep going to God over and over again with it. How is it doing all your school work at home now?
It's really weird, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Stay in your PJs and yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So question number 2, Charlie, is what emotions have you experienced during this quarantine? What's kind of been the range that you've experienced from start to finish during this time?
Well, in the beginning, I was kind of lonely just because I don't have any siblings.
Oh, yeah.
But it's gotten better. I don't know why. I'm kind of getting used to it now.
Yeah. Do you have pets or anything like that keep you company?
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I have my dog. She's a pug, and her name is Twinkie.
Oh,
That is amazing. Does she do like the snort kind of thing like pugs do sometimes? Oh
A
yeah.
lot.
oh goodness.
That is amazing. We'll have to have
That's great.
Twinkie as a guest on our next show and ask her.
Oh,
Yes.
totally.
Very cool.
Awesome. So, Charlee, have you tried anything new during quarantine?
Well, I wasn't like at the beginning of quarantine, I wasn't able to like even like turn on the stove.
Mm,
And now I can cook like crepes and stuff.
Nice.
that's awesome.
So were you not allowed to turn on the stove, or just were you not familiar with turning on the stove?
I didn't know how to, and I was scared I was gonna catch the house on fire.
Yeah. Good to be cautious there.
Yeah, it is. Yes. The stove is one of those things, I think, because it's like the first thing our parents tell us, don't touch the stove. We have this irrational fear of it for like the rest of our lives. Like we'll touch it and it explodes and our house is gone.
Oh my gosh. Okay, quick story though. One time, it was New Year's Eve today, and I had to drive my brother to the airport early in the morning. And I come back into the house from the airport, and it smells like gas. And I'm like, "What is going on?" And I was like super careful not to like make a spark, because I think I make sparks with everything. But yeah, the gas had been turned on the stove, and like someone nudged it. It was so scary. But
That is freaky.
I saved the house, so we're good.
So
Be careful.
your perfect crepe, Charlee, what consists, what toppings, what are you putting on your crepe?
Well, I learned how to make puree too, and
Oh,
I just put some raspberries and blueberries together, and then some sugar, and put it on the stove.
that
Yeah.
is awesome. So do you just go with the puree on the crepe then?
Yeah, sometimes I'll do like peanut butter and bananas on it because that tastes
Yum.
pretty good.
Little
That's
combo.
I went to this, I think it's called a creperie, a crepe place, where they do like ice cream and Nutella and all that stuff too. It's wild.
Yes.
So
I've
good.
never tried ice cream on it.
So it's at, well, I guess you could just do it too since you're the crepe master now. But at Cannon Beach, have you ever been there before?
Yeah.
There's a crepe shop right there on like the main street going into Cannon Beach, and they have a bunch of different kinds of crepes there. Super good. You'll have to check it out sometime.
Yeah.
I will.
Oh, me. I'm asking the question. My bad. Okay, Charlee. We have to get to some of the sad things, but what have you missed from youth group during this time where we haven't been able to meet together?
It's probably just like seeing people face to face and like playing all those fun games and just bonding with everyone in our youth group. It's sad.
Yeah, I know. I miss all of that too. It's crazy how like the things that we took for granted, like even just the games on Wednesdays, like something as simple as like Duck Duck Goose sounds so fun right now.
So good.
I know. I like go like it's fun for me to go to the store now. Like I used to never.
Totally.
Just to see other humans, yes.
Oh, for real.
Maybe run into someone you know even, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you are not sure, that means that it is halftime, and we are going to play some Heads Up with Charlee. So, Charlee, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Category is pop culture. Christian and I are very in the know of pop culture. Can you see that?
No. Oh, it says.
There we go. Here we go.
Skip. I shaved off my head.
Britney Spears.
I'm a boy.
Michael Jordan.
Is it a actor?
People say that my last name is Bieber.
Oh, Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber.
People in high school dancing.
Prom. Homecoming.
Yeah.
Homecoming King.
Prom?
Yes.
Boom.
Skip.
Ooh.
Skip. It was just celebrated. It's a Spanish.
Easter.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Skit.
Oh, time is up. But you got 3, I think. That's really
good. Nice. For the first talking heads up.
Gosh, the first one was Met Gala.
Oh my goodness. What? Oh my god.
Oh, I'm glad you skipped that one. We would have been stuck forever. All right, well, you heard it here, people. The score to beat for this month is 3. Trace, in honor of Cinco de Mayo recently happening.
Trace de Mayo, yep.
All right, let's get back into some of those questions. Christian, take it away.
So, has any good come from being sheltered at home for you?
Yes, because I get to spend more time with my family, and I really, really like that.
Nice.
Awesome. What's a family activity that you have really appreciated or enjoyed during this time?
Uno.
Lots
of Uno.
That's awesome. Uno's a good one. Have you ever played spicy Uno?
Yeah, we actually played it at Winter Retreat.
Oh, nice. Yes. Did you play Uno on Cinco de Mayo?
No. We should have, though.
Should have called it Cinco. And when whoever had 5 cards left, they go out. No, that just gets too crazy. So, Charlie, in what way or what ways have you just experienced growth in your faith this past year? I know that 6th grade was a big year for you just in your relationship with Jesus, but what's this last year been like for you, and how have you experienced that growth?
Well, I feel like I just started trusting God more, and because I don't know, it just gotten better and better ever since. That's
awesome. How have you, in your day-to-day life, what differences do you notice in yourself in that way?
I notice that I'm less scared for things, because I used to be a very worried person.
I would never know that. So that totally shows that God's been working in you in that. That's so cool. Just more peace. That's awesome.
That's so cool. So we're going to get specific and personal here. Who is someone from youth group that means a lot to you, and why?
Julie, because she is just super kind and she's always humble. She's like my second mom, basically.
Oh, that's awesome.
Julie's so cool.
She's like my second mom, too, in a lot of ways. She is such a sweet lady. You are lucky to have Julie and Shelby for leaders. That is for sure.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah.
All right. So last question here for you, Charlie. Is there a Bible verse that's helped you or been meaningful to you recently?
Yeah, Julie's actually she sent out these Bible verses that we should read, and it was Nahum chapter 1 verse 7, and it says, "The Lord is good, a strong refuge when trouble comes. He is close to those who trust in him." Because it's just since right now we're just going through so much, we should just trust in him, because there is trouble, and that's the only way to help us.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think I've ever heard a student quote Nahum before. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so great. Good. That's a great passage. I love it. Thanks for sharing that. And I think that's a good one to remember, just that God's a refuge. I think that so often we want places to run to where we feel safe, and that God says, I'm that place to run to. And that place is a person, right? That place is a being, which is so cool that we get to run to a being for safety and security. So good. Totally. All right. Well, then I think, Charlie, you have a couple questions for Christian and I as well.
Yes. What's your guys' favorite way to worship?
I can go first on this one if you need a second.
Yeah. Go for it.
I do love singing together and singing worship, but I think for me, one of my favorite things, I actually have there's different favorite spots, but I'll describe one that maybe some of you are familiar with. So I love being outside in nature, and specifically I'll go to Round Lake. Sometimes just me, usually bring my Bible, a journal, sometimes I will listen to some worship music too, but when Round Lake, like, you kind of get out of the circle part of it and it shoots down to the lower falls, there's this little like mini trail that you can go off and sit on some rocks that overlook the water, and the stream runs right past it. And I just so experience like the peace of God in that space and in that place. And being outside, I'm just reminded of how big he is and how in control he is and how creative he is. And that even in all of that, he still sees me and he knows me and he loves me. And so I feel like my heart just, I'm able to see God rightly when I'm out in nature and I'm alone with him in that way. So that's one of my favorite ways to worship.
Yeah, that's awesome. For me, worship, similarly with music, where music is kind of our go-to nowadays, it seems, with worship, and the easy way to recognize, like, yeah, I'm going to worship God, I'm going to sing this song. And for me, it's kind of two-part with that, where I like to use the gifts that God's given me, no matter what, and to honor him in that. So for one, I like to lead worship in one way or another. But also, aside from that, it's when I'm like pulled away from others and I'm worshiping just between me and God, and I'm singing out to him in a personal way. Like being in the congregation is awesome, and it's so cool to like be as one voice worshiping God. But for me, like also like just when I don't know, I just feel myself humbled and like brought low while I'm singing to God. That's like my favorite way to sing. And then the other way is just in like everyday life, like whatever we do, whether we eat or drink, whatever we do it all for the glory of God. And so for me, I just love hanging out with people. So for me, I try to go into my interactions with people, with students, with my family, just with patience and love, and seeing what God has for me in that interaction, and then doing my best to give him glory through it all. So really, my favorite ways to worship are through music and through just living my life and being in relationship with people.
I love that question, Charlie, because it reminds me of the winter retreat in a lot of ways, and how we talked about how worship isn't just something that we do, but it's who God's created us to be, is to be worshipers of him in everything all the time. So I love that you asked that.
That's great.
My other one is, what Bible verse gives you the most help during this pandemic and quarantine?
Yeah.
I could share first this one.
Go for it, dude.
So there's a lot of answers to that, and Matt and I were joking about how we could just go back to the verses we keep referring to like every week on this podcast. But for me, I go to Galatians 6:9, where it says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." And I love, for one, that the word harvest is in it, like our church. But it's just a reminder, because for me, sometimes there's multiple days or a week where I'm just like, man, I feel like I haven't done any good this week, you know, and I've just kind of been lazy, been selfish, whatever the case is. But that's just the reminder that, you know, even this time where it feels like we can't do anything, we can still focus on Jesus. We can still worship him. We can still do good. And at the proper time, not necessarily right now, but at the proper time, because we did good now, we can reap a harvest if we do not give up. And just to realize that God's using us in every moment, and he wants us to live productive lives for him. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that question. And it's kind of changed for me all the time. Like one day I'm thinking about one verse, and another day I'm thinking about another. But recently I heard this passage in a sermon, and it's James 4:13 through 15, and it says this: "Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that." And it's just a reminder, like, I like making plans. I like planning things out. And part of the reason I like to do that is because I like having control. But when things like a pandemic happen, we realize how we don't have control, like at all. And that our plans really, they really don't matter in a lot of ways. And yet the encouragement in this passage is that, man, our life isn't that long. It says our life is like a mist, which doesn't sound really encouraging, but in the time that we do have here on this planet before we go to eternal life with God, we should be asking God, how do you want me to live? How do you want me to spend my day? What do you want me to live for? Instead of it being us having control about what we're doing all the time. So that's been helpful for me to remember, all right, Lord, like you're the one that's in control and I don't have to be, and I get to rest in that, and that whatever time you give me on this planet, I want to live it for you. Great question, Charlie. All right, well, we usually end our podcast or episode with some one claps. So what that means is Christian and I will give you a one clap, a shout out kind of for something that you shared during this podcast or a moment from the podcast, but then you can give a one clap for anything. So if there's somebody or something you want to shout out and just be like, this person's awesome or this thing's awesome, we'll do a one clap for that. Sound good?
Yes.
All right. Well, Christian, do you have a one clap from the podcast?
I have a one clap, yeah. I guess just with you talking about missing Julie, I thought that was super cool, and it made me remember how awesome Julie is. But I don't know, it just, with that and the question before about how you've grown in your faith in the last year, just seeing that, yeah, like these leaders, I don't know, they're helping you to grow, and I just see how much joy you have, and I see just how, I don't know, you make us smile just being on this podcast, so just one clap for you, how you've grown, and just how much joy you bring to every situation. Maybe that's how you clap.
All right, I'm going to do a clap for Charlie overcoming her fear of the stove and learning to make crepes. That is awesome. Brilliant. So cool. So one clap for Charlie making some crepes.
I'm going to give a one clap to Julie and Shelby for making Zooms that we can do each week. And yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Charlie, for joining us and being real. And thanks for just sharing your joy with us and everybody that gets to watch this episode or listen to this episode. Until we see you again, and everybody listening, we love you guys and so glad that we get to connect in this way, but can't wait to be together again. Peace out.